There's a moment no one warns you about. A moment that doesn't come when you're failing, broken, or on your knees begging the world for mercy. No, it comes when you start winning, when you start standing taller, when the fog clears and your vision sharpens and you finally begin to move with purpose. That's when you feel it. A shift. The room gets quieter when you speak. The people who once cheered for you start watching you with different eyes. Not eyes of admiration. Eyes of measurement. Eyes of calculation. You haven't changed, but everything around you has. And here's the part that cuts deepest. The ones who turn against you first aren't strangers. They're the ones who knew you when you were nothing. This video is not motivation. This is a warning. This is a weapon. Sit down, pay attention, and learn the game that nobody had the courage to teach you until now. Your growth is their mirror. Let me tell you something that will change the way you see every relationship you've ever had. The moment you begin to rise, you become a mirror, not a friend, not an inspiration, a mirror. And most people despise what they see when they look at you. Your discipline reminds them of their laziness. Your focus reminds them of their distractions. Your ambition reminds them of every dream they buried because they didn't have the spine to chase it. You didn't insult them. You didn't attack them. You simply grew. And your growth became the loudest accusation in the room. Machiavelli wrote that a man who rises will always disturb the order of those who stayed behind, not because he threatens them with force, but because he threatens them with truth. Your existence at a higher level is a statement, and that statement reads, "It was possible all along, and they chose comfort instead." That is an unforgivable offense in the court of mediocrity. You need to understand this deeply. They don't hate your success. They hate that your success dismantles their excuse. Every excuse they built, every lie they told themselves about why they couldn't do it, why the world was unfair, why the timing wasn't right. You demolished all of it just by showing up and doing the work. And rather than face that uncomfortable truth, rather than look in that mirror and accept the reflection, they will turn on you. They will rewrite the story. They will call your ambition arrogance. They will call your confidence ego. They will frame your hunger as selfishness because it is easier to make you the villain than to admit they are the coward. Let them. You are not here to make your reflection comfortable for weak eyes. You are here to rise, and mirrors don't apologize for what they show. The mask of loyalty falls first. Now here's where the pain truly lives. The first people to betray you won't be your enemies. It won't be the stranger who never believed in you. It won't be the rival who openly competed against you. No. The first blade will come from the hand you once held. The friend who sat with you in the dark. The one who watched you struggle, who saw you at your lowest, who knew every crack in your armor. They will turn first. And you need to understand why. Proximity breeds entitlement. When someone witnesses your suffering up close, they begin to feel ownership over your story. They were there when you had nothing, so unconsciously, they believe they deserve a share of everything you build. Not because they earned it, but because they watched. And watching, in the mind of the weak, feels like contributing. Machiavelli understood this with surgical precision. He warned that the allies you gain in times of weakness are rarely the allies who survive your strength, because loyalty born in your darkness is often just comfort disguised as love. They were loyal when you were beneath them. They were loyal when your pain made them feel needed, when your failure made them feel equal. But the moment you rise above that shared floor, the dynamic shatters. Now they must look up. And looking up at someone they once looked down on is a wound their ego will never forgive. So the mask falls, slowly at first. A backhanded compliment here, a dismissive joke there, a sudden coldness they won't explain. They won't tell you they resent you. They'll show you in ways that make you question your own sanity. That is not loyalty dying. That is loyalty revealing it was never real. It was proximity. It was convenience. It was comfort dressed in the costume of love. Remember this: the throne room is always smaller than the battlefield. Not everyone who marched with you deserves to sit beside you. Envy wears the face of concern. Listen to me carefully, because this is how they get you. The envious man will never walk up to you and say, "I am jealous of you." Never. That would be too honest, and honesty requires courage that envious people do not possess. Instead, they will wrap their resentment in ribbons of concern. They will approach you with soft eyes and say, "I'm just worried about you." They will say, "You're changing." They will say, "Don't you think you're moving too fast?" They will say, "I just don't want you to get hurt." And because you trust them, because you love them, because you still believe that everyone in your circle wants what's best for you, you will listen. You will slow down. You will second-guess the very instincts that were building your empire. That is the kill shot, not a bullet, a whisper. Machiavelli said that men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that the one who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived. And the greatest deception isn't the obvious lie, it's the emotional manipulation dressed as care. Learn to decode the language. When someone who has never built anything tells you to be careful, that is not wisdom. That is fear wearing the mask of love. When someone who has never taken a risk tells you to slow down, that is not concern. That is control. They don't want to protect you from failure. They want to protect themselves from your success, because if you succeed, their entire identity crumbles. The friend who was always the smart one, the strong one, the one with potential, that role is threatened when you actually move. So they won't block your path with a wall. They'll poison your water with doubt. The most dangerous knife, remember this, is never the one you see coming. It's the one wrapped in silk, offered with a smile, handed to you by someone who says they care. Stop drinking the poison just because it's served in a golden cup. The politics of the crab bucket. There is an experiment that needs no laboratory. Put a single crab in a bucket and it will climb out every time. But put a group of crabs in that same bucket and not one will escape. Why? Because every time one begins to climb, the others pull it back down, not out of strategy, not out of intelligence, out of pure instinct. That is the world you live in. That is the invisible architecture of every social group, every workplace, every family gathering where someone dares to become more than what the group agreed was acceptable. This is not personal, it is tribal, it is ancient, it is wired into the psychology of human beings at a level most people will never examine. Groups survive through sameness. The tribe stays safe when everyone operates at the same level, thinks at the same speed, and dreams at the same height. The moment one member breaks formation, the tribe perceives a threat. Not a threat of danger, but a threat of disruption. You are disrupting the unspoken contract. The contract that says we all stay here together, we all remain average together, we all pretend that mediocrity is peace. Machiavelli observed this in the courts of princes and the halls of power. The man who rises too fast within a group becomes the group's primary target, not because he has done harm, but because he has broken rank. And broken rank cannot be tolerated in a system that worships conformity. So they pull, they criticize, they isolate, they mock. They organize quietly against you, not with swords, but with silence, exclusion, and manufactured doubt. Understand the mechanism and it loses power over you forever. You were never meant to stay in the bucket. You were never meant to climb at their pace. The crabs are not your community. They are your cage. Stop asking the cage for permission to be free. Climb. Let them reach. Their arms are too short and their will is too weak to hold someone who has already decided to leave the bottom behind. Silence becomes your armor. Here is the shift that separates the powerful from the loud. Stop talking. Stop announcing. Stop sharing your plans with people who have no blueprint of their own. Every word you speak about your next move is a map you are handing to someone who may not want to see you arrive. You think you are sharing excitement. You think you are building connection. But what you are really doing is giving ammunition to people who smile at your face and strategize behind your back. Machiavelli was ruthless on this point. He wrote that a prince must learn when to be the fox and when to be the lion, but before both, he must learn when to be silent, because the fox who reveals its path gets trapped, and the lion who roars before it strikes goes hungry. Silence is not weakness. Silence is the highest form of strategy. It keeps your enemies guessing. It keeps the envious unable to prepare. It keeps the manipulators disarmed because they cannot counter what they do not know. Think about every time you shared a goal too early. Think about the energy that drained from the room. Think about the subtle discouragement, the raised eyebrows, the cautious warnings. That was not coincidence. That was extraction. They were pulling your energy before you could convert it into action. The powerful throughout history understood this. They moved in silence. They built in the dark. They let results speak because results cannot be argued with, but plans can be dismantled before they take their first breath. You must become obsessed with privacy. Not secrecy born from shame, but privacy born from power. Let them wonder what you are building. Let them guess where you are going. Let them speculate while you execute. The man who moves in silence arrives before anyone knows he left. Your mouth is either a weapon or a wound. It either protects your empire or exposes it. From this moment forward, choose wisely. Let your silence be so loud that when you finally speak, the world has no choice but to listen, because your results already said everything. They need you to doubt yourself. Now we enter the darkest corridor of this game. The most lethal attack you will ever face will not be loud. It will not be aggressive. It will not come as an insult or an argument or an obvious act of sabotage. It will come as a quiet erosion of your own belief. They need you to doubt yourself. That is the strategy. Not to defeat you from the outside, but to collapse you from within. A man who doubts himself does not need enemies. He becomes his own executioner. And the people around you who fear your rise know this instinctively, so they plant seeds, small ones. A comment about how you got lucky, a reminder of where you came from, as if your past should be a leash around your throat. A joke that cuts just deep enough to leave a scar, but not deep enough for you to justify confrontation. This is psychological warfare, and most men never recognize it until the damage is done. Dark psychology teaches us that the most effective form of control is not force. It is perception management. If someone can control how you see yourself, they never need to control your actions. You will limit yourself willingly. You will shrink voluntarily. You will abandon your own ambitions and believe it was your decision when in truth it was engineered. Machiavelli saw this in every court he studied. The advisors who whispered doubt into the ears of kings were more dangerous than the armies at the gates, because an army can be fought. But a thought planted in the mind of a powerful man can bring down an entire kingdom from the inside. Guard your mind like you would guard your life, because in this game they are the same thing. Do not let anyone audit your potential with their limited perspective. Do not let anyone install a ceiling in your mind that was built by their own fear. The moment you catch someone managing your self-perception is the moment you must cut the wire. No confrontation, no explanation, just distance. Because a man who knows his own worth does not need a jury. And anyone who needs you small was never standing beside you. They were standing on top of you. Detach from the need to be understood. This is where most men bleed out without ever being cut. Not from betrayal, not from failure, but from the desperate, aching need to be understood. You carry this hunger inside you like a disease you never chose. You want them to see your vision. You want them to recognize your sacrifice. You want them to look at you and say, yes, I understand why you did what you did, but they never will. And chasing that understanding is the chain that will keep you anchored to a level you were born to outgrow. The Stoics carved this truth into stone centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius did not rule an empire by waiting for the Senate to validate his emotions. Epictetus did not teach philosophy by begging his students to understand his suffering. They moved forward, detached, unshaken, because they understood something you must burn into your mind today. The need to be understood is the need to be controlled. Every time you explain yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, you hand them power. You are saying, your perception of me matters more than my perception of myself. That is surrender. That is slavery, dressed in the language of connection. Machiavelli would have called it strategic foolishness. You are negotiating with people who have already decided their verdict. No amount of words will change a mind that profits from seeing you as the enemy. So stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop translating your fire into a language that cold hearts will never speak. Your isolation is not loneliness. Read that again. Your isolation is not loneliness. It is elevation. It is the natural consequence of becoming someone that most people do not have the range to comprehend. The eagle does not circle back to explain itself to pigeons. It does not land to justify its altitude. It flies, alone if it must, high always. You were not designed for the crowd. You were designed for the climb. And the climb demands that you release the rope of approval before it drags you back to a ground you have already outgrown. Let them misunderstand. Let them misinterpret. Your life is not a speech, it is a statement, and statements do not require applause to be true. Rebuild your circle like a strategist. Now that you understand the game, it is time to rebuild the board. You have been playing with the wrong pieces your entire life. You kept people in your circle because of history, because of emotion, because of guilt, because leaving them felt like betrayal, even though staying with them was slow suicide. That ends now. Machiavelli did not choose his alliances based on sentiment. He chose them based on strategy. He studied every man in his circle, not by what they said, but by what they did when pressure arrived. Words are theater, actions are truth, and you have been watching the wrong performance for far too long. From this moment forward, you audit every person in your life with the cold precision of a general reviewing his ranks before war. Ask yourself one question. Did this person show up during my rise or only during my rest? Did they celebrate my wins with genuine fire, or did their smile carry the scent of something rehearsed? Did they challenge me to become sharper, or did they comfort me into staying dull? If the answer unsettles you, then the decision is already made. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to create conflict. You simply redirect your energy. Access is currency, and you have been giving it away for free to people who could never afford the real cost of standing next to someone like you. Build your circle the way Machiavelli would build a council, small, tight, ruthlessly selected. Every person in your proximity should either be a mirror that sharpens your vision or a mind that expands your strategy. Anyone else is weight, and weight does not rise. It pulls. You are not being cruel. You are being calculated. There is a difference that weak men will never understand, but powerful men live by. Loyalty is not measured by how long someone has known you. It is measured by what they did when knowing you became difficult, when your name was heavy, when your vision was mocked. Whoever stood in that fire with you earned their seat. Everyone else was just standing in the light you provided, and light does not owe warmth to those who only showed up for the glow. Become the man they cannot break. Everything you have learned so far means nothing if you can be broken. Strategy means nothing in the hands of a fragile man. Silence means nothing if behind it lives a mind that crumbles under pressure. You must become the man that no circumstance, no betrayal, no loss, no attack can shatter. Not because you feel nothing, but because you have trained yourself to become ungovernable, to experience pain without flinching. This is the marriage of Stoic discipline and Machiavellian composure. The Stoics did not teach you to become numb. They taught you to become ungovernable, to experience pain without being possessed by it, to witness chaos without becoming part of it, to stand in the fire and let it forge you instead of consume you. Machiavelli added the second layer. He taught that the appearance of strength is often more powerful than strength itself. The man who never reacts teaches the world that the world cannot reach him. And when the world believes it cannot reach you, it stops trying. That is dominance without war, victory without a single blow. You do not need revenge. Revenge is the project of a man who is still wounded, and wounded men build nothing that lasts. You need something far more dangerous than revenge. You need indifference, cold, absolute, unshakable indifference to every voice that once tried to define you. Let them talk. Let them plot. Let them build entire narratives around your name. You are not in that conversation. You are 10 moves ahead, building a version of yourself that their criticism could never architect and their praise could never sustain. Do not fight your enemies. Outgrow them. Do not argue with doubters. Outlast them. Do not prove yourself to anyone. Prove yourself to the man you were yesterday and make him unrecognizable by tomorrow. The unbreakable man is not made of stone. He is made of decision. The decision to never again hand his peace to someone who cannot carry their own. The decision to move forward even when forward is dark and lonely and uncertain. The decision that no matter what comes, he will still be standing when the dust clears. That is not motivation. That is architecture. Build yourself so solid that when they come for you, they find nothing to destroy. The throne is built in silence. And now we arrive at the end. But understand, this is not a conclusion. This is a coronation. Everything you have heard in this video was not theory. It was not philosophy for the sake of sounding intelligent. It was a blueprint for the man who is tired of being pulled down by hands he once lifted up. A blueprint for the man who has been silent too long, patient too long, generous too long with people who mistook his kindness for weakness and his tolerance for stupidity. That man dies today. Not in tragedy, but in transformation. You are not here to beg the world to make room for you. You are here to build your own room and lock the door behind you. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the man who is bold enough to seize her, not the man who waits, not the man who asks permission, not the man who polls the crowd before he takes a step. The bold man, the decisive man, the man who looked at the chaos of his own life and said, "I will build a throne out of this wreckage, and I will sit in it alone if I must." That is you, starting now. Every lesson in this video was a brick. Your growth is your mirror, and you will never apologize for what it reflects. The mask of loyalty has fallen, and you now see faces for what they truly are. Envy, dressed as concern, will never poison your water again because you recognize the taste. The crab bucket has no power over a man who has already decided to climb. Your silence is your armor, and your moves are invisible to those who once tried to predict you. Self-doubt has been evicted from your mind permanently. You no longer beg to be understood by people who were never equipped to see you. Your circle is rebuilt with surgical precision, and you have become the man that nothing and no one can break. The throne was never given. It was never inherited. It was never voted on by the crowd. The throne is built in silence, in discipline, in cold, unrelenting forward motion, while the rest of the world sleeps and gossips and decays. You built it brick by brick, with hands that once shook but never stopped. Now sit in it. You earned this. If this video set fire to something inside you, drop a comment right now with the words, "I am the architect of my own throne." Let me see who understood the assignment. Let me see who felt every word in their chest. And if you are new here and this is the kind of content that sharpens your mind and arms your spirit, then do not leave without subscribing. Hit that like button. Turn on notifications, because this is not just a channel. This is a war room, and every video is a weapon designed for men who refuse to be ordinary. I will see you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay silent, stay dangerous.